Welcome to another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, or maybe just Instigating with Drury, because Clarkey's gone. He's not here. He's on vacation. He's in the air as we speak. I don't know where. He's a secretive guy. But one thing that's not a big secret is what's up in Toronto right now with the Blue Jays. Although there could be some secret stuff dropping. Hopefully it doesn't happen. Maybe it'll happen while we're recording this show. And who else would we have on when we're talking about the Blue Jays other than our friend, the Toronto Sun's own Blue Jays beat reporter, Rob Longley. Mr. Longley, a lot of stuff going on in Blue Jays land right now.
It could be a lot of stuff or a whole lot of nothing, like most of the offseason has been. It's been wild, hasn't it? Since the season ended at the start of October to now, it's just been typical Toronto Blue Jays craziness, I guess.
It really has. I guess let's go in sequential order here, and let's start with the failure to get Roki Sasaki. Now, everybody got all excited again. It was almost Planegate 2.0, but this was International Pool Money Gate. Everybody last year thought, oh, there's a plane coming with Ohtani on it. It ultimately wasn't Ohtani. People thought the same thing when the Miles Straw deal went down. The Jays acquire some international pool money. People are thinking, oh, brilliant. That's for Sasaki for sure. And hours later, Roki Sasaki confirms, of course, he's going to the LA Dodgers, which is turning into Little Japan at this point. I mean, all the Japanese superstars they have there. What do you feel like it was ultimately that led to the Jays coming up short again?
Well, I found it very interesting that at his press conference yesterday, Sasaki said that the thing that really turned the tide for him was the stability in the front office. I mean, I don't know if that was just praise of the way Friedman and the Dodgers do things, which certainly is impressive, the team that they built and what they have behind the starting lineup. They have, depth everywhere, it seems, depth on their 26-man, depth on their 40-man, and depth in their farm system. But was it just praise of those guys, or was it a not so thinly veiled shot at both the Padres and the Blue Jays? I mean, from all accounts, Roki Sasaki did a lot of research. Him and his people, and it's all out there. I mean, whether it's local media like myself or whether it's national media throughout the U.S., there's not a whole lot of people heaping praise on the way the Toronto front office does stuff. And if you're talking about stability, you can guarantee you that Sasaki's camp is well aware that Mark Shapiro's contract ends at the end of this year, John Schneider's contract ends at the end of this year, and Ross Atkins' contract ends at the end of the following year. And then stability, well, what about Vlad Guerrero Jr.? If stability is the word that Sasaki used, then that could have been the deciding factor. It wasn't money because of the situation, of course. But the other thing is that, as you mentioned, Ryan, you're going to join the other Japanese superstars, and you're going to a World Series champion, and you have all that infrastructure in there. Why not, right? I mean, it was inevitable from the start that he was going to end up there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think a lot of people shared that opinion, and I did too. Like, I just don't believe anything with the Blue Jays front office, and when they're, and they've earned that reputation, to be fair, Robin. It's not to say again that like we don't believe these guys aren't trying to do stuff. No, it's just that it's the inability to get it over the line, and people see the way that they've handled the team, the way that they've handled the team in game situations, that has made a lot of people around the baseball world raise their eyebrows at a number of in-game decisions they've made over the last couple years. Ultimately, though, and I mean, for the Dodgers, who we'll touch on in a minute here, I mean, there was that story that came out that they'd been pursuing Sasaki since he was 15 years old, yeah. Which I don't quite know. I mean, they clearly have something dialed in with their scouting staff and their preparedness, and Sasaki made mention of that. I get the feeling that he wasn't directly taking a shot at the other front offices. Yeah. You would think that, before we move on to Anthony Santander, a rare win for the Blue Jays, do you not think, though, for as much of a mystery man as Ed Rogers is, he seems to be an international man of mystery. I don't even know what he looks like, Rob. Maybe you do. I couldn't pick him out of a crowd. You would think that a comment coming from a giant free agent superstar like that, and the fact that you just referenced the expiring contracts of all of the Blue Jays front office and their manager, you would think that even a guy that's as seemingly distant as Ed Rogers would look at that with his board members and go, I think we might have a real problem here.
Yeah, he's an interesting cat for sure, right? I mean, I have seen him. He shows up at spring training under Grace
Wow.
Camp every year, and he's got like an army of PR people around him so that nobody can go near him. And they put on a real show for him because he brings some of his board members as well, and he stays for 2 or 3 days. By all accounts, he's very passionate about baseball. He really wants to have a winner. He likes the idea of being an owner of a baseball team, like the Blue Jays that have the status that they do and that have the appeal coast to coast. I mean, obviously, he's in it more for that. He's in it for the business, and it certainly is 162 days of programming for one of his networks, and that makes him a lot of money. And it's 33,000 people in his building, 81 times a year, which makes him a lot of money. So that's the ultimate appeal to it. But it makes you wonder how well briefed he is beyond the fiscal performance of the team. Does he care? Or does he even care? I have to believe that he does, but is he that much insulated from not just the results? The results are there in the newspaper or on this TV screen every night, where they are in the standings and how they did in a given ball game. But is he even aware of how, I don't even think dire is too strong of a word, how dire this franchise is in terms of its future, as we sit here today anyway, and it could change by tonight if there's a couple more acquisitions. But the farm's top 10 payroll, he knows what he's paying. Top 10 payroll, bottom 5 farm system. Is he aware of all that stuff? Do his advisors insulate him from that? Does he just blindly believe in everything that Mark Shapiro has done, and that is make him a lot of money? Because the team has flourished financially since Shapiro took over, and that's what he was hired to do, apparently.
Yeah, like you would think that there would be, with a guy who clearly, like, he clearly has a great mind for business, or in the very least is surrounded by a lot of people that are able to maximize the value of things and pour money and improve the Rogers Center for better or worse, depending on your opinion. The renovations have gotten a lot of attention, mostly positive, I'd say. One would think like that he has the capability, in the very least, to be aware of things deeper than what the score was that night and what the financials are at the end of the year. Certainly, in the very least, Rob, he would look at the end of September and early October and go, how come there's no playoff revenue here?
Yeah, but maybe it's as simple as Mark Shapiro goes up to him at the end of the year and pats him on the head, figuratively, and says, well, Bo got hurt. He wasn't healthy all year. He struggled for the first time in his career. He's going to be great next year. Kevin Gosselin, his shoulder was off in spring training. He's our ace. He never got on track. This is going to be his year. We got rid of Jordan Romano. We didn't think he was the answer to we're rebuilding our bullpen. Hey, we got Anthony Santander. We can hit home runs again. We got Vladdy. He's one of the greatest teams players in baseball. Last year was an outlier. 2025 is going to be great. We're going to get right back there to oh, by the way, we've been to the playoffs for the last 5 years. What more do you want?
To win a game?
Maybe a win in a playoff game to start, and perhaps a playoff series, and then not just a best 2 out of 3 series, get to an actual 3 out of 5, and maybe have 3 or 4 home dates in a playoff series. Imagine the kind of money and imagine the kind of following this team would have if whatever. And we can't even imagine that right now, given what's happened the last 3 years, and especially last year.
We cannot. And I mean, you brought it up. I referenced it earlier. Let's talk about, hey, look, we love Clarkey and I in particular, and we usually have you on when we do this. Like, we love kicking these guys when they're down. Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro. If we're going to do that, I've always believed if you're going to do that to people, you got to be equally there when they do something good. And I genuinely believe that getting Anthony Santander, maybe for more money than a lot of other teams would have given him, and probably for at least 1 more year, maybe even 2 than other teams were offering, if you believe the reports out there. Ultimately, I don't think that matters, though, because that's maybe how the Blue Jays need to do business, and they got their guy. And he's a guy that hit 44 jacks last year. I don't expect him to do that again, but if he hits 30 and is healthy and is a plus defender like he has been his whole career with a really good arm, steals bases. Like, this guy's an effective all-around baseball player who has some juice in the bat. And for all Ross Atkins moaning in that year-end press conference when you were there for that State of the Address and some of those embarrassing comments came out about low-hanging fruit with power bats, it seems like that's all they're targeting right now. What does Anthony Santander bring to this team in your mind?
Yeah, I love the fact I asked that question too about power and does this team
I
need some
know you
power? They
did.
just said it was a low hanging fruit, and it's like we're just using it all season long because it's just too comical that a GM would actually say that about a team that had its lowest run output since 1997. It's still one of the great punchlines of Ross Atkins' career, which is saying something. Santander, yeah, okay, like everybody else, they have to overpay a little bit, whether it's term or whether it's dollar. That's just almost understood the way this team has to go about business. I like it. I like the signing. I mean, obviously he has some flaws. He's not a big on base machine. I don't think he's a great base runner. I'm not so sure how plus of a defender he is. He's a corner outfield guy, and a lot of times you'll probably be holding your breath when there's a fly ball, much like you did when Teoscar Hernandez was there. But the man can hit home runs. And guess what? Home runs take you out of these 2-1 ball games that we watched night after night for the last 3 seasons. And when you put him in the lineup either before or after Vlad Guerrero Jr., I suspect after, all of a sudden you've got a 1-2 punch, and these guys, just the two of them, can change a ball game. We had him on a Zoom video conference the other day, and he talked about how much he loved the Rogers Center, which, I mean, any new guy's going to say that, but he has hit for power in Toronto. He knows the ballparks of the American League East. He said he liked the sight lines, and he's going to hit a bunch of them. If he hits 30, like you suggested, that's anything above 30 is a bonus, right? Because the Jays, if you have anybody over 20 home runs in a season, other than Vlad over the last 3 years, it's been a minor miracle. So you have that power bat that can produce. You have that power bat that can change a ball game, and it's worth the flaws that come with it, whether they're deep defensively or whether they're on base and that kind of stuff. So I give them credit for, and apparently he was their guy. Obviously they were in on Soto, and they probably realized that getting Soto was not the most realistic pursuit, but they were in on it and they gave it a shot. I think their immediate fallback was not Pete Alonso, it was not Alex Bregman, it was Anthony Santander. So they got their guy. Now, does that make this offseason a win all of a sudden? I like Andres Gimenez. I think it's a great defensive addition. I like Hoffman as a possible closer in your bullpen. I think that's all pretty good. I was thinking about this today, Ryan. I was thinking that I think if you evaluate the Ross Atkins offseason at this point, it would be the equivalent of being like a 500 ball club. You've done pretty good to this point, but if you want to be a playoff team, you've got to finish it off in the offseason. You've got to make at least 2, maybe 3 more decisions of some significance. You have to try to get Pete Alonso, who can give you a bunch more home runs, or somebody like that. You've really got to try to close the deal on Vlad Guerrero Jr., which I think there's next to no chance of that happening unless Ed Rogers steps in and offers him $500 million, because I think much short of that, I think he's just going to walk to free agency, and why wouldn't he? So getting Santander certainly made this offseason to this point credible, but he has to finish it off. He has to get it across the finish line by adding a couple of more things. I think a starter. I think originally I didn't like the idea of Max Scherzer, but if you could get him for 1 season, that arm probably has 1 more good season left in him. You could monitor his workload, and he'd be a great leader in that clubhouse. And I think that's the thing that the team really needs. Santander, I didn't really know much about him other than watching him play. I hadn't ever spoken to him before, but he seems like a pretty good dude. Vladdy loves him. He knows Jimenez from their days in Cleveland, and I think he'll be a really strong and vibrant fit in that clubhouse. So the potential is there to pull this off somehow for this front office. And of course, what does that do? That gets fans' hopes up again and say, Ross is on it. This is the year. We're gonna finish off a good off season, and we're gonna take it right into the regular season, and we're gonna win 93 games, and we're not gonna finish last in the American League East. Look at us go.
I I was going to ask you that next. Obviously, there's the rumors, and like Hoffman, there was the fiasco with him failing physicals. If he's healthy, ultimately, I think that he ended up turning. He used to be a Jays draft pick. He ended up turning into a really reliable arm, especially in his recent seasons in Philly. Like his numbers are undeniably good. They really are. Maybe he could be a closer. The Alonso thing is interesting to me, and as I look at my phone, there's still no confirmation. There's a lot of rumors swirling as we record this on Thursday, January 23rd, that Pete Alonso might be coming on a 3 or 4 year deal to the Blue Jays. If that were to happen, Rob, obviously the name brand recognition behind him and Santander loan would maybe push them to like a 650 ball club in the off season. To use your analogy, I think a lot of people would give them due credit that would probably be deserved. Like Pete Alonso, when healthy and feeling it, like he's got a lot of pop. Right. I'm curious what it does to them positionally, though, because like Vladdy Jr., like they both play first base. He would clearly DH a lot more and spell Vladdy off to let him DH now and again. But like he's a Gold Glove first baseman. Like you're not moving Vlad. I've heard these rumors. Oh, well, maybe they move Vlad to third where he was drafted. Why would you do that after he's proven that he's comfortable over there? And I don't know if Vladdy has the arm to play third. Like, what does Pete Alonso do to this lineup and the way that they line up on the field?
Well, Vladdy does have the arm to play third. That's one of his greatest.
Yeah. Okay.
But however, I agree with you 100%. I mean, you've just, one of your big acquisitions via trade this offseason was to get one of the best defensive infielders in baseball and Jimenez to play second base. So now you're going to throw a guy who's marginal at third base over there and just basically throw that out the window. This is one of the things about Alonso that has kind of miffed me from the start. And it's how do you break that down? And I think there's probably a way to figure it out if they don't get an actual third baseman. Like if Ernie Clement is their third baseman going into the season, like I guess you sort of, then it's mix and match everywhere. You sort of split the DH and first base roles between Vlad and Alonso. And I think you slide Vladdy over to third for a handful of games. I think he played a dozen last year. I remember asking Ross Atkins at his season-ending press conference this year, if there was any thought about moving him over to third, and he said, "Yeah, but like we think like kind of like 20 games. We think he's a 20-game guy, not a 100-game guy over at the hot corner." And so they're not going to do that. And I think there's a sense. And Vladdy is a proponent of it, of being comfortable in one position. He'd rather stick in one spot. He'd rather be first baseman rather than first baseman, DH, third baseman. Like, just tell me where I'm going to be and let me get as good as I can there. Because he works at it. I've seen him work defensively. He works hard at it. He wasn't as good defensively last year as he was in his Gold Glove season the previous year, but I think that was a lot had a lot to do with the clowns that were out there with him, especially in September. Guys who could not throw a ball anywhere near first base, and he had to make these acrobatic plays that nobody could make. So I don't know, man. He to me, he screams as your everyday first baseman. And how would Alonso feel about being more of an everyday DH? I don't know. Maybe he would be fine with it, but he seems to be a solid enough first baseman. And then it raises the broader issue of if they were to sign Alonso to a multi-year deal, if it's 3 years, and Vladdy goes into spring training without an extension, then is Pete Alonso your first baseman of the future? I mean, you're almost admitting it in that case, right? Because Vladdy has said that if there's no deal by the time spring training starts, which is full camp is February 18th, which is less than a month from now, if there's no deal in place by then he's not talking about it to the end of the year. And then the Jays can bid for him again, but get in line with the 30 other teams in baseball who'll want to take a crack at it. So it's really an interesting dynamic, as you pointed out, about the whole situation at first base and where Pete Alonso would fit vis-a-vis with Vladdy if he were to come here.
Yeah, I mean, it would throw a wrench into like the potential re-signing of Vlad, or maybe behind the scenes, Vlad wants to play third, and signing Pete Alonso and pushing him over there would maybe help massage contract talks with him. Who knows? I certainly don't. You'd have a better read on that than I do, but I just think that he's really proven. I've actually overall I've been like really impressed with the way that Vlad has, kind of, cultured his way into being a really reliable first baseman. Like that Gold Glove
Yeah.
year, I couldn't believe like how well he played. I felt good about him being there all the time. And Alonso, yeah, he's a serviceable defender, but he's not better than Vlad. And you're right. Like you give a bunch of money to Alonso to bring in a 30-year-old, and Vlad's sitting there going, okay, well, what about me? Like, I just want them to sign this guy. Like, just sign this guy. Because Brian Hayes has been saying it for a while. If you're not going to keep this guy, I don't think Jays fans will ever believe that this front office and this ownership group will keep any big homegrown talent.
No, I hate to toot my own horn, but it's just posted up today. But we call them long reads at Postmeet. There's a 4,000 word feature I did on Vlad and the whole situation about how he went from being like the entire future of this franchise from the time basically that he was 16 years old, certainly from the time that he was 18 years old when he had that incredible season with New Hampshire. And I've known him since then. Like I went to New Hampshire to do a feature story on him when him and and John Schneider was the manager with the New Hampshire Fisher Cats. And, just to follow the trajectory of him since then, when he made his major league debut, when he hit his first 2 home runs in San Francisco, when he his first home run derby, which he didn't win, but he stole the show, even though Pete Alonso won it. The next home run derby that he won, the All-Star years, going from an out of shape guy to a really fit guy. I think he's, from the pictures I'm seeing out of Florida, that he's more fit than he's ever been right now, to a guy that went from an 18-year-old to a 20-year-old to now a 25-year-old who's very mature, and he's a very dedicated professional. Toronto sports fans have seen this guy grow up. Like we've been like parents to him. We've followed his career. We've been excited about him. We've seen his highs, we've seen his lows, we've seen his growing pains, right? And now all of a sudden he could be at the zenith of his career. 2021 was his best season for sure, right? Regressed a little bit in 2022. Had not a very good 2023. And I remember talking to him at spring training last year, and he said that was kind of like the wake up moment for him. It's like, if I'm going to be who I can be, I really have to. I have the talent. I can be a really good player, but if I want to be one of the best in the game, I got to take this seriously. So he went to a personal trainer in Tampa last year by the name of Nicole Gabriel, and he came into training camp as fit as he's ever been. And he had an amazing year last year, right? It wasn't as good numbers-wise as his 2021 season, but he had nobody in the lineup around him. Like, he was the only guy in that order that was performing with any degree of consistency. Now he's coming into this season a little bit jaded about the process. He did go to arbitration last year. He's claims that the Blue Jays lowballed him by $100 million in his mind. And somehow this franchise is going to let him get away. Why didn't they lock him? Why didn't they just pay the money 2 years ago or last year? I get why you wouldn't pay it after 2022. He didn't have the greatest season. Timing wise, it wasn't great for him to not be his best in 2023 either, because now it puts the Blue Jays in a bit of a bind. We're 2 years out, so you can't pay him before that season. But to pay him after the 2024 season, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And now here we are on the lip of free agency. And it's been a mess the way the franchise handled it, considering all the resources they poured into the guy, all the hope and expectation they built around the guy, and now we're this close to seeing him walk. It's unbelievable to me.
And Rob, like, these guys, we think that these guys have been getting crucified up to now. Like, if this guy walks, like, for all the talking that they do, which fans really get pissed off with, the sentiment around a lot of Blue Jays fans is they don't like how much Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro shoved numbers and spreadsheets down their throats. Well, for all the expertise that they spout off about having all these advanced numbers and knowing better than everybody and being the smartest guys in baseball history, if they don't get this guy locked up, people are going to turn around and go, you're the computer nerds and you didn't see the progression that this guy was going to make and get him signed to a great deal that could potentially look team friendly down the line. That's not going to happen now. But I mean, if they don't sign him, period, it is going to be like, there might be a legitimate like pitchfork mob coming down Bloor Street. Like, it's not going to be good, Longley. I don't know, man.
It makes my head want to explode too, because they always talk about their internal valuations, right? Like there are all those stats out there that you and I can look at, but the Jays have the best ones. We have our own internal valuations, and we're telling you, man. You think his hand speed is great? You think his bat to eyes stuff is really good? Well, we're seeing stuff. He's got a hit, whatever it is, whatever flaws they're seeing in him. It's in their own private numbers, right? And it's I don't know. Is it a stubbornness? Is it? I have no explanation for it. I really don't, except for it's just, to me, it's incredible that they got it to this point. And here's the other thing, and I touch on it in this piece, which is up online now, but it's the idea of, well, there's one thing. As soon as you let him go, what's the first thing you're going to try to do? Is find another Vlad Guerrero Jr., right? Like you need a guy like that. But the other part about it is, and it speaks to what I said earlier about the whole we feel attached to this guy because we've been following him for the better part of, well, it was almost a decade that they signed him, is that attachment is literally worth money, because they sell far more Vlad Guerrero Jr. jerseys than they do anybody else. He puts far more bottoms in that Rogers Center than anybody else, even when they're on a 74-win season. He's a huge fan favorite. I would hazard that, who's the most popular professional athlete in Canada, right? Playing for a Canadian team right now? Probably Connor McDavid. But in Toronto, is Vlad more popular than Austin Matthews or Mitch Marner? I think he could make that case. So you've got, how much is that worth? So attendance went down about 4,000 on average last year. It was still, as I mentioned, pretty good at 33,000. But if they're barely a 500 team this year, if attendance goes down 10,000 a game over 81 games, how much money is that? You could pay for two Vlad Guerrero Juniors. So it just boggles my mind. And then we haven't even really talked about the Miles Straw situation. They're willing to throw away $11 million on a Miles Straw and try to go cheap on Vlad Guerrero Jr. And I don't know. There has to be a grand master plan in there, and maybe we'll all those people that have been critical of them will be fools when they come out of the gate hot and make it to the playoffs and challenge for the American League East. But as we sit here today on January 23rd, man, I don't see it. I really don't. It's it's not frustrating to me. It's actually great for me. They make it for easy columns. I mean, they write themselves, but how frustrating must it be for a fan base? This fan base was revived in 2015 and 2016, and they were willing to go along with the rebuild in 2018 and 2019. Why did they go along with the rebuild? Because they had Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. They had hope for the future. And now you're just going to walk away from these two guys, and you're going to do it after a 74-win season? You tell me, Ryan.
Listen, before I got to jump in here, guys, as producer Adam, you tweaked me, Rob, with your comment, bums and seats, right? These guys should be watching Shoresy. Those guys did it great on Shoresy, right? Rebuild the team, bums in seats, okay?
Bums in seats, let's go. Hey, ask the Sudbury Blueberry Bulldogs how that worked out. They went out and they got the right guys. They took a risk, they went out and they got the right guys. How about that? Chicken's unbelievable. I want to finally leave you with this, Rob. Obviously, the Hall of Fame class got announced. Ichiro, no surprise. CC Sabathia, two first ballot guys. And Billy Wagner getting in there too, of course. Bit of a connection with the Jays now. But he gets in there on his final year of eligibility. I know that Mariano Rivera is the only guy to get 100% of the vote. I can't believe we talk about like getting crucified with the Jays front office. If they ever discover who the one guy was that didn't have Ichiro on their Hall of Fame ballot, that guy might need to go into hiding. How on earth could you not put Ichiro on your Hall of Fame ballot, Rob?
No, it's automatic. It's like I'm trying to figure it out. And there's some guys that just they get too brainy about this kind of stuff. they know that Ichiro is going to go in, right? So this is the only possible explanation that I can have for it, and I don't agree with it. I think it's still sublimely ridiculous. But maybe this person believes that Mariano Rivera is the only guy that really should have been a unanimous one. So if I withhold my vote on Ichiro, that means that he won't be unanimous. So then that sort of protects. No, but it's crap, right? You cannot do that if you believe. And I mean, if you have a ballot. How in your right mind could you not even do that? Like, how would you leave his name off? Like, I thought they revealed everybody's ballots. I guess voters. I'm not a voter yet. I will be in a couple of years, but I think voters have the right to have their ballots released if they choose, and it's not obligatory, but it should be. It is and it is in the MLB awards. If you vote for MVP or Cy Young or whatever, Rookie of the Year, you have to your ballot is released, and it should be, because not so this guy is pitchforked and crucified, although he should be, but give the guy a chance to explain himself. Like what could he possibly have been thinking? And maybe he should be medicated, because there's clearly something wrong with the dude or woman.
Longley, I could turn that sit down with said voter into a 60 Minutes episode.
Easily.
Like I could sit there and be like, hold on, from the start, explain to me. I don't know, dude. I'm just happy he got in. He's an all-time great. It's embarrassing that he wasn't 100%. Unanimous, dude. Absolutely. And we have unanimous support for our buddy Rob Longley. Read his columns, Toronto Sun, Blue Jays beat reporter. Follow him on social media, Longley Sun Sport. Dude, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, brother. Thanks so much for doing this.
My pleasure, too. We'll hook up again for sure. There'll be lots to talk about in the weeks and months ahead, won't there?
Absolutely, there will be. There always is. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, a special friend of the show. It's a Friends episode here, all right? I feel like Joey right now. We're going to be joined by somebody to talk about a couple big NFL playoff games coming up this weekend. That's next here on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Thanks to our friend Rob Longley for jumping on, talking about the Blue Jays. Could be some more news dropping. We're not sure. We're on Pete Alonso watch, allegedly. So if that happens while we're recording this, producer Adam will jump in and let us know. But listen, we switch our focus now to pigskin, because there's two huge football games coming up this weekend, one of which I know everybody in Canada, particularly Southern Ontario, is invested in, and that's Bills Mafia against the Chiefs. And who else to talk about Bills Mafia? We got to have our guy on. You know this guy. I'll hang up and listen. Of course you'll hang up and listen. It's Duane Steinel from Two Goalies, One Mic. What's up, brother?
Long time, too long of a time there, Drury. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, buddy. Thanks for coming on. And look, we'll touch a little bit on your Sabres. I know that's a soft spot right now. They're having another tough year. We'll touch on that, but I want to have you on. 96% of this conversation is going to be positive, okay? This is Positive Thursday here on Instigating. We're going to talk about your Bills. And how could you not be positive about the way they played this year? They beat the Chiefs in the regular season. That was a great game. Josh Allen with a great play to clinch that win. How are you feeling about your Bills coming up against the dreaded Chiefs again? I know they're 0-3 against them in the playoffs, but explain to me what's different about this Bills team that's going to send them to the Super Bowl and not Kansas City?
I think, as a whole, this team is just built to win. I mean, there's no, outside of obviously number 17, like everybody finds a way to contribute. Everybody has a role. There's no distractions. There's no drama, as we saw with Stephon Diggs. We later found out that it was intentionally trying to force his way out of the organization. I just think that everybody's invested, everybody knows their role, and winning is at the forefront. And there's no selfish characters in that locker room. It's all about winning, and that's why I think this team is more than ever built to beat the Chiefs than any team they've had in the past. And that includes 13 seconds.
And you look at, the way that this team has overcome adversity this year with a lot of injuries early in the season. I mean, that loss against the Ravens, which they overcame, they beat the Ravens in the playoffs. It was a great game. When they lost to the Ravens in week 4, they had 7 defensive starters out of the lineup. And I know this team's not built on making excuses, but facts are facts. They're healthy now. They've got a bunch of guys on that defensive line that are really causing problems for quarterbacks. They were forcing turnovers. They were forcing Lamar to leave the pocket and make bad throws. They made him be a quarterback. Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty impressive stuff what they're doing. I don't think it can be overstated, like Matt Milano and his presence in that defense. Like on that side of the ball, what are you seeing from this group that's a little bit different in terms of the way that they're able to attack quarterbacks and disrupt the other team's offense?
Well, like historically, like Sean McDermott defenses, they don't blitz a lot. There's a lot of patience there with the players that they rush. I always knew going into that Ravens game that we were going to be able to contain Lamar in terms of his feet. The Bills of Sean McDermott and the Bills, they've always been good about containing those style of quarterback. And I'm not trying to say when I say like they made Lamar be a quarterback, I think Lamar is a very, very, very good quarterback. But when you take that dynamic out of the game, it makes it a lot more beatable, right? Like when you don't have to worry about him beating you with his feet, you can more or less worry about Derrick Henry. You can worry about forcing him to make those bad throws. Like that interception was awful to wrap. That was so bad. And then you force that fumble. Matt Milano's presence, in that back, or I'm sorry, on defense, as he's irreplaceable. You just can't replace Matt Milano with literally anybody. You can have guys that can fill in. You see guys like Dorian Williams who served, in his absence played extremely well. I think he was leading the league in tackles for some time. But at the end of the day, Matt Milano's a game changer on defense. He got paid the money he got paid for a good reason. And he gets paid. I was fine with not having him for most of the season as long as he showed up and played in playoffs, which is what he's done. And you look at the fumble from Lamar. You look at the interception. You look at the other forced fumble on Mark Andrews. Like this team is just patient and they play mistake-free football. They're disciplined and they jump on mistakes. And granted, it wasn't the sexiest of games offensively, but you got it done. And that I was convinced, and I still am, the team who won that game was going to win the Super Bowl, and it's going to be the Bills in my opinion. I don't fear any team left in front of the Bills the way I did Baltimore. I was more scared of Derrick Henry than I was of anybody else, and you held them, I think, to maybe 100 yards, which is a win in my book.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I'm pulling for you guys. I would really love to see the city of Buffalo. I've told you this numerous times. I would love to see them win a championship, just period. It would be great. Kansas City, obviously there's a dragon there to be slayed. And that's what's fun about the playoffs. When you step up and you do that in those moments, it can really propel your team to greatness. When we look at the offensive side of the ball, you mentioned earlier about how there's not distractions, there's not drama, there's not a number one receiver there acting like a prima donna, which they're prone to do sometimes. Like I look at this receiving core and I just see a bunch of really gritty players that serve roles. Honestly, and I mean this as a compliment. I'm not bringing it up to bother Buffalo fans. It does remind me of Brady's early career where he started to establish himself and he didn't really have like a superstar to throw to those first 3 Super Bowl wins. Deion Branch was a really good player and Ben Watson was a good player. I look at this receiving core, like Khalil Shakir is on star precipice. I mean, if he's not considered a star, I think he's right there. Coleman has become a really serviceable player. You obviously got the 2-headed monster with the tight ends that are so good in your run game and allows you to run that run pass option offense that Joe Brady like. It is really impressive. What has stuck out for you? Is there a guy on the offense this year outside of 17 that is maybe an unsung hero in Buffalo?
I think James Cook has been really good, but to your point, like we have a 3-headed monster. I thought Ty Johnson. I hope they bring him back because I think the three-headed monster. I think they have the best running back room in the NFL. I really do. Ray Davis,
Yeah.
he's going to be fantastic. If and when he takes over the starting role, if I don't know what they'll do in the future of James Cook, but I am more than happy with it being Ray Davis and then Ty Johnson. Just the reliability, they don't fumble the ball. They're consistent. How often do you see these guys drop passes when they're asked to catch a ball? They don't. James Cook used to have that problem, not so much this season. Offensively, like Deion Dawkins. Deion has been fantastic for them this season, and I think along with Josh Allen was an all-pro snub this year. I think he's the best, if not one of the best left tackles in the NFL. And just the way he protects, not just Allen, but his teammates. And, it's very, very rare that this one of the top two, like the most popular player on your team after the quarterback is your left tackle. But that's who he is. It's a personality. He's a personal friend of mine, and he's just the most humble human being in terms of pro athletes you'll ever meet. And, he was built to win in this city. Other guys offensively, it's tough, man. Everybody plays a role. You talk about Khalil Shakir, just the reliability, the catch rate with him this year has been ridiculous. I mean, if you put a ball on his hands, he catches it. It's wild. He doesn't drop the ball. And just the trust that Josh Allen has had in him this season. And you talk about, Allen, it's crazy that they're playing in the AFC Championship game, and not only do they not have a 1,000-yard receiver or like an 8. Yeah, I'm not sure who leads in terms of receptions. I can't imagine it's more than 70 catches, whoever it might be, if it is even that much. But you could argue they didn't have a 1,000-yard rusher either, because Cook didn't get 1,000 yards until that 17th game after Allen had already left the game after that one snap. That one snap. What he's been able to do in spreading the ball out and having the trust he's had in these players, it's really remarkable. And, you talk about the MVP talk between him and Lamar. Like, I don't understand how still people argue against Allen. And this isn't me being just biased because I'm a Bills fan, I'm a massive Bills fan. If you look at this roster and what he's been able to do with it and the expectations coming into this season and all these, football talking heads that said they didn't stand a chance in hell of making the playoffs, let alone winning the division, which they did by, was it week 12? Like, they win the division wrapped up by, was it week 12? How do you say Allen isn't the MVP? How many Pro Bowlers does Baltimore have compared to Buffalo? The success that Allen has had, it's really remarkable, man. I think it's one of the best seasons we've ever seen from a quarterback, not just a Bills quarterback, just ever, with the team that he's had in front of him. You make that Brady comparison. It's a great comparison because he went to Super Bowls with not great rosters. I forget who it was. It might have been after Randy Moss. I don't think they won the Super Bowl that year, but they had like nobody to throw to. And Brady got them to the Super Bowl. And it was just like, figure a way to get it done. And that's what Allen has done this season.
Yeah, he absolutely has. I'm shocked by it too, and I'm not just saying this because we're buddies. I mean, Allen would have had my vote because I'm pretty sure he's the first quarterback ever to be a first or second team All-Pro and not have a teammate also be a first or second team All-Pro or go to the Pro Bowl. It's insane what he was able to do, and I'm not trying to take away from any of those guys. We were just singing their praises, like his teammates on the offensive side of the ball. Love James Cook, like touchdown machine. Shakir, I think he's got star potential. But none of those guys are established big name guys. I don't think that if you asked any NFL player, fan, talking head, like you said, that any of those guys on Buffalo's offensive side of the ball would come up in any top 10 conversations. Not yet. I think there's potential. I like Shakir a lot. I think he's got star potential. I do. But what he did with what's available to him is extremely impressive. I'm not sure how he's not, going to be the MVP and was the first team all-pro quarterback. I want to ask you just a little bit about, 17, and we've talked about him a lot over the years, you and I, on this show, on your show, Two Goalies, One Mic. I genuinely wonder this. If he goes to the Super Bowl and he wins it, he finally brings Buffalo a championship. Like, what does that do for a legacy in terms of a guy like Josh Allen? Because I think that Buffalo fans, they might be build this guy a statue right now.
Yeah, 100%. He will be the most beloved professional athlete of all time in Buffalo. And you have guys, that have played, for the Sabres, guys like Hasek, who I don't know if you can argue he's the greatest goalie of all time.
He is, yeah.
You've had some really beloved players that have come through the Bills. I mean, Allen, all the, controversy when they drafted him, the talking heads that didn't believe in him. I was one of them. I didn't believe in it because I believed in the talking heads. And I'll gladly admit that I was wrong every single day. I've never. It's hard to imagine what this city's going to be like if they do win the whole thing. It's going to be honestly a 7-day bender. I joke about it, but people might die from alcohol poisoning. You know what I mean? I worry about it, man, because it's this city has been dying for. You got to admit, this city, the football team went through a 17-year playoff drought.
It's insane.
The hockey team is currently in a 13-year playoff drought.
Yeah,
four Super Bowls in a row that you lost.
God,
both organizations, they've always in the past found not just ways to lose, but they've made it an art form. You know what I mean? I compare it to the Red Sox before they finally won it. They didn't lose. They literally just they found creative ways to lose. And so did the Bills for such a long time. You think about back when all they had to do was beat the Steelers' third stringers to make the playoffs, and they lost. That was the big Willie Parker coming out party. It's hard to imagine, man, what this city will be like, what it will mean to the people. I know what it will mean to us, but just it's hard to imagine. It really is. I'm fully on board. I'm already preparing for them to win the Super Bowl because I just know they're going to. But just thinking about what this city's going to be like for a week, what that parade will be like, and it's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts. And I couldn't imagine that he'll have a statue in the city before he retires, without a doubt.
Yeah. And he probably deserves it, man. And I had a buddy of mine call me, he was a Bills fan. He was like, dude, I'm going to the parade. He was like, I don't know if there'll be a table left in the city. I think every table will be gone. And I was like, you legitimately might be right. I don't know if anybody will own a kitchen table in the city of Buffalo.
Because before you said that, it flashed. Somebody sent a tweet in a group chat of mine, and it was a quote from Alex Tuck from the Sabres, who's obviously, has Buffalo roots growing up, living in Syracuse. But he said, does he think he'll go through a table? If the Bills win the Super Bowl, is 100% yes. My wife will probably be the one putting me through it. And
amazing.
It's true. It's true though. I just the Bills Mafia, the family, the culture, the community has been created here. It was really built off losing for such a long time, and just always still showing up. Never always showing up for the team. Win or lose, just never always believing or believing. There's no fan base in the world that deserves this more than the Buffalo Bills. They joked about it. Deion Dawkins joked about it, but this really is America's team. Screw the Dallas Cowboys. I don't understand why people think they are America's team. It's so stupid. But is there outside of, Washington's fan base, outside of Philadelphia's fan base, is there a football city outside of those other three teams that aren't rooting for the Bills right now? Like, it's so hard.
I think so.
It's so hard not to love the Bills. Dude, New England's fan base is probably gonna be rooting for Buffalo. Let's be real. Yeah, let's be real. They will be, and they sat there and laughed at us for as long as they did, 17 years, as they used to put a pounding to us every single time we played them. I think back to moments with the Bills, like it makes me appreciate those drought years even more. Like, I remember where I was when, they finally beat the Patriots. I remember the on-field staff taking down the field goal post before the fans could rush the field to take it down themselves, because you knew it would happen. You think about bad moments like the Leotis McKelvin fumble in the end zone, Monday Night Football against the Patriots. The fans, there were some idiots that literally burnt the score of the game on Leotis McKelvin's lawn. That happened. They with gasoline, they wrote out the score and they burned it in his front lawn. Like, as much as like the bad as there's so much good. Like, you look at the Mark Andrews thing, $90,000 raised for his foundation or whatever it was. He dropped the pass. He received some death threats, which is a serious thing. And then our fan base just raises almost $100,000 for his foundation in less than a week.
Which is incredible. Like, Bills Mafia and like the charitable stuff that they do. They did the same thing when the Bengals won that one game. I think it was to end the playoff drought. Yeah, they sent tons. I think it ended up being almost $500,000 to Andy Dalton's foundation.
Nuts, man. It was nuts.
And that's what it is. That's why they are the lovable Bills Mafia. Like, I think everybody other than the city's still involved. You're absolutely right. They're cheering for him. I'm cheering for you guys. I'm a Patriots fan, dyed in the wool, but I would love to see Buffalo get a championship. That city absolutely is the most deserving city in North America to finally get a championship, brother. I really hope the Sabres turn it around for you too. My affinity for the franchise, and RJ's my hero. I would love to see that too. But buddy, it was great to catch up with you. Go Bills. I'm rooting for you guys. Enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun when they finally do this thing for you.
Yeah. See, I intentionally went as long as I could with the Bills so we could avoid talking about the Sabres.
Steinel, thanks so much for doing this, brother. It's always good to see you.
Thanks for having me on, Drury. You've been a good friend, and I've always enjoyed coming on the show.
Absolutely, buddy. All right, we'll take a quick break, and then producer Adam and I will come back, and we're going to wrap things up here on Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Back to wrap things up this week on Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, or more aptly titled now, Instigating with producer Adam and Drury. And producer Adam's here with me to wrap up the end of the show. Thanks to our buddies Rob Longley and, of course, Duane Steinel. Follow Rob for all your Blue Jays news, Longley Sun Sport. Checking here as we record this Thursday, January 23rd. Coming up on 7:45 here. Still no Pete Alonso news. Nope. So if he signs after this airs, I'm sorry. We paid as close attention as we could. And thanks to our buddy Duane Steinel, of course, Buffalo superfan, host of Two Goalies, One Mic with our buddy Connor Hurley and a number of other great people over there. Always love to chat with him. Producer Adam, Clarkey is on vacation.
Yes, he is.
He's going to be watching this. The pressure is on.
Yep.
It's couch potato time, and you have something special queued up here. In Clarkey's stead, I'm going to let you go first.
Thank you. So what
do you got?
Two things. I'm sorry I didn't ask you, Duane, about Casey Middlestat. Sorry. He's great, by the way. We love him in the Avalanche. Sorry, Duane. Sorry.
Yeah.
And the last report we had from MLB Trade Rumors was the talks were advancing between Pete Alonso and the Jays. That was an hour ago. So that was the latest there. So, yeah. Who knows?
We love that
the show comes out tomorrow. Yeah, right?
We love that.
For sure. All right. So, yeah, I got one. So, we've seen over the years, we've seen the crew that comes to, I think it's the Vancouver games they started where they were all in the uni suits in different colors and doing all kinds of wild things. We've seen all kinds of wild fans. Yep, the green guys. All kinds of wild fans. But I really like this group. these guys, I don't know who they are. The clip just came across my Facebook feed, and I love it. So we're going to play it, Ryan, and then we'll see what happens. We can talk about it after for a bit. No, we don't have a lot of time, but here's my couch potato. These guys are amazing. They're in the stands at a game.
Great goal, even though he's playing some good hockey. They're trying to get him on. They got some officials in the crowd, and they're really ready here. They're playing the entire part. They're directing traffic on the face-off, those officials in the stands. That's being very serious about.
There we go. Good job. All right.
So the benefit of the podcast, people, it was 3 people dressed as referees in the audience or in the crowd at a game. I don't see exactly what game it was. And they're literally...
I think it was Philly, Florida.
Yeah, and they're literally replicating...
like Philly home game.
Right, and they're replicating everything. They even call the guy out, like, get out. Nope, skate right there, get out. And then drop the puck, right? So... I love it.
Producer Adam, I have said numerous times when we're critical of referees that no one comes to the games to watch the refs.
Right. Obviously, those 3
I've been wrong before, and damn it, I'll be wrong again. I was clearly mistaken.
Right.
These people have proved me wrong. How about that?
Before we wrap up, I think it'd be fitting if I tried to attend an NHL game with this, okay? My PlayStation 4 controller, and then sat there as the players going, like I can say Nate Doggs. I'm like, okay, Nate, let's go. Oh, right, and did a whole thing.
And then you edit like the arrows over the guys.
Right, the arrows over the guys, yeah. Yep, just like Chell. I'm playing Chell from the audience. Got Nate on my team.
Well, did you see at the Flames game, I think it was recently, maybe even in Chicago, I can't remember. And in the intermission, the guy running the in-house lights was playing a game of Chell on the big screen.
No, I did not. I have to look that up.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh,
yeah,
that is awesome.
I would love to do that. How about that? Well,
so we got to go with a couple of PlayStation controllers, right? So that you could play one side, I'll play the other side. There you go.
I would love to do that. You know, someday if I ever make it to the NHL, I'm gonna do that.
Right,
I'm gonna do that in an intermission. How about that? Quickly, my couch potato, very simple here. And again, I can't believe some moron with the Baseball Writers Association of America left this guy off their Hall of Fame ballot. He should have been a 100% unanimous Hall of Famer. Ichiro Suzuki, the greatest Japanese ball player. I mean, Shohei, could pass him. He's still got a long way to go. But Ichiro came over, late 20s, maybe even was early 30s when he came over, 3,000 hits, a robot, Mr. Perfect on the baseball field. I don't think he ever put a toe wrong in his entire career. It's recently been announced he's going to be going into the Hall of Fame as a first balloter, which is deserved. And Major League Baseball shared this video from the Mariners. This is amazing stuff. This guy, he's in his 50s now, Adam. He still shows up just unannounced to Mariners training camp.
Wow.
And sometimes just shows up randomly to practice. Wow. Unannounced, and that's his house, right? Yeah. Like, he can just walk in there and he'll just show up and help guys train. It's amazing. He loves the Mariners so much, and the Mariners love him, and that's evidenced by this clip right here. Check this out.
My honor and privilege to announce that the Mariners are retiring your number 51 jersey. After your induction in Cooperstown this summer, we'll hold a ceremony here at T-Mobile Park on August 9th and officially retire your number 51 next to Hall of Famers Ken Griffey Jr., Edgar Martinez, and Jackie Robinson for permanent display in center field at our great ballpark. Ichiro, again, congratulations, and I'm so proud of you. It's truly my honor.
Unbelievable stuff.
Yep.
Unbelievable
Absolutely.
stuff.
I agree.
It's so good. Look how much it means to the guy. He's like in tears. It's awesome. We love that from our athletes, and he means so much to that market and that team and the sport. It's incredible to see that reaction from him when he got the call and they had him on MLB Network to talk to him about getting in. They surprised him, and Ken Griffey Jr. jumped on, his buddy, and was talking. It was awesome, dude. It was so good. Awesome. We love Ichiro. We love that dude. Congratulations. Incredible. So I'll be tuned in on August 9th to catch that. That's just awesome stuff. Full class by Major League Baseball,
right?
And the Seattle Mariners.
I know,
all right.
I know we're running out of time, Ryan, but could you imagine being a player that's coming to the Mariners for training camp? You're coming in the first day, you're so nervous, and you look across and there's Ichiro and Ken Griffey Jr. sitting there What the heck?
Legends. I'd be shaking, dude. I wouldn't be able to do up my cleats. Just incredible stuff. We appreciate the incredible fans of this show. Remember, you can watch the show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. Debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. Follow us on social media at Instigating Pod, and make sure you watch us on YouTube. You can find clips of the show, the podcast version available on all your favorite podcast apps. Thanks to Rob Longley, Duane Steinel, producer Adam. For Clarkey, I'm Ryan Drury. We'll be back next week with more Instigating.